Police and protesters have clashed in Germiston as tensions over alleged illegal occupations boil over. Police say 2 people have been arrested in connection with a fire at the Home Affairs building. Let's take you there live and to Newsroom Africa's Nqobile Madlala. Nqobile, this started with the protest over evictions. What led to the fire at Home Affairs?
Well, Michelle, according to the police, they're saying that they're investigating currently a case of arson. It is alleged, and from the EMS as well, they've been told that there were 2 gentlemen, it seems, that came closer to the building, and one of them might have been the one that had basically thrown set alight the building. And we understand at this point that a petrol bomb was thrown into the building, which sets the fire of the roof of the building. And that's what they're currently investigating. We are told that the 2 people are currently arrested, with some that they are still being investigated. They're saying specifically there is an individual that the police are still looking for. The EMS at this point is just making sure that they're trying to take out that fire, extinguish the fire with all people on the ground. Whilst on the other side, we are told that the reason behind all of this is because there's this eviction that is taking place behind us in terms of the block of flats where people are being evicted from. But what's interesting about this, Michelle, is that this was a decision that was taken by council in Ekurhuleni municipality, and that's why I'm going to bring in now my guest to speak to us about how this decision now has affected the people. And I think perhaps just to start this, Dunga, we know that you are a former MMC of finance, and you know very well what's the impact of people not paying their rates. Were people here paying their rates during your tenure?
Well, thank you for having us. I think the first thing that we have to say is to obviously condemn the arson of the Home Affairs office. But getting back to the question, is our social contract with the people of Ekurhuleni overrides, the finances or the financial standing of the institution, because the primary objective in all we do when we are part of governance is to ensure that our people have service and services delivered to them, including housing and facilities that are conducive for living conditions, But this is a building of what they would refer to as social housing. And the main people who would be residing here are people who can at least afford to pay minimum in terms of rates and taxes, water, electricity, and rental to the city. We have had numerous challenges, particularly from Ekurhuleni Housing Company, in terms of getting the necessary revenue from these facilities across the city, by the way. And it has been a challenge in terms of how Ekurhuleni Housing Company itself, as a private, isolated entity that is owned by the city, has to generate its own income and ensure that it's financially viable. So it has been a challenge, and I think one of the main things that they would then have had to consider was the element of evicting those who do not qualify to be here, because we've got a lot of policemen that were identified, a lot of people who are working for the state, EMPD, teachers and nurses, but who are residing here under false pretense of not being able to afford alternative accommodation.
And so were they paying then those rates and taxes? Are you aware of this?
There's a significant portion that has not been paying those rates and taxes. So if you go inside here and you look, there's a significant portion that is not removed on the basis that the checking of each and every single unit was done in such a way that we check who is the lease or the leasee. Are they paying the necessary monies to the EHC? And those that are found to have a legal binding contract with Ekurhuleni Housing Company are left alone, no one is touched. But in areas where there's also a hijacking, by the way, where someone would have applied and stayed here but moved out and gotten someone else to actually stay in the place, and that particular individual is paying a rental to a third party that is no longer here. There's a complete hijacking of the facilities of the state. And in those areas that were identified, those people have been evicted, because numerous times, the state has actually engaged them to try, because this is actually a straw or one of the phases that we are going through. The first phase was to regularize what has been irregular. Or unlawful occupation, as the state might want to put it. And many of them conformed to it. Many of our citizens conformed and said, okay, we might have not been staying here legally in the pretext of what constitutes being legal in the city, but let's try and fix it. And many of those have been fixed. But there's been a despondency in many of others as well who said that they are not willing to take up a contract with the state and pay. They are not willing to be vetted. And upon our own vetting, we then found that they do not qualify. Some of them even have houses, that they would have rented out outside the spaces and then come and stay in these facilities for free. And those are the people that have actually been evicted. But as a caring state, we've also said that you cannot evict people without checking that they should have alternative accommodation. Because we've got to be a state that directly cares for its people and its citizens. And it would be completely wrong for us to be standing here and say that we do agree to the selected evictions of those that are not supposed to be here. But our responsibility is to ensure that even those that were not supposed to be here are given the alternative accommodation, at least in accordance to the law, because if we are to do something that is contrary to that, would be against the constitution of this country.
And I understand that this decision was obviously taken in council, that this must take place. Were you there? What was the understanding behind it?
Well, look, the protection of the state resources lies within the ambit of legislature, and the operations thereof. So evictions are not processed through council. Evictions are something that is done through the entity in itself. Like in this particular case, Ekurhuleni Housing Company would be the one that institutes evictions, because it's an operational matter where the state or the city does not interfere in. So no one wouldn't know of such a decision that would have been taken in council, but needless to say, what we would have raised in council would be that EHC is not functioning to the best capabilities as it should. There are revenue losses that we're incurring through EHC. And we've also called upon, by the way, the EHC CEO to be fired, because we are firmly believing as the EFF that he was appointed illegally. Those are some of the matters that we have brought to the attention of council. And if it is to be found, by the way, that the CEO has actually effected eviction without having considered all those elements that we are referred to as the EFF, we'll really take this head on with him.
And we know that some of the people here have said actually they don't know where to go. And what is your decision now? Because some of the people here are even saying that they're going to sleep on the streets.
Yeah. No, look, we'll have to ensure that we do provide the alternative accommodations for those who are in dire need. As I said, there is a portion of them who have houses, and we've had the privilege to actually check and follow up on those, and we are aware that there are those. But then there are genuinely those who are in need of facilities, and we must make sure that we do those necessary provisions. We'll be speaking to the MMC of Human Settlement as well. We have directed him to come here and do those necessary assessments and ensure that our people, deservingly so, we ensure that they get the necessary housing facilities today.
And in the meantime, we've already seen that the Home Affairs has gone on fire. And that's, of course, that's a great concern. We've spoken to Home Affairs about how this is going to have an impact on service delivery.
Look, this is the only office around here. Outside of here, you'd have to go to Boxburg. Long queues, long lines. So this has a dire effect in terms of operations. So we are calling on the Department of Home Affairs to at least come and establish a satellite office here, so that genuinely our people can still get the services that they need, and that an investigation must unfold as quickly as possible in terms of the perpetrators of this particular criminal incident.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Nqobile Dunga. He's speaking to us, of course, as some of the people that have come on the ground to look at the impact of what is taking place right behind us, Michelle, where the evictions are taking place. We're hearing new information there that some of the people that live here are not necessarily people that qualify to be on social housing. So some of those people had been identified, and part of what was being spoken about in council was the fact that the company in itself, in terms of housing social people who are under social housing, was actually not working properly.